Welcome to Awake and United Mysteries and Beyond. I am Chris Freedom Flowers, also known as Christopher F. Freedom, right here on LMN, or actually it's LNM Radio Network, late night in the Midlands. Today is November 15th, 2013. My co-host Justin can't be with me today, so I'm going to be doing this show on my own. And we're going to be covering a few topics here for you, the listeners. We're going to get into demonic possession and alien abduction similarities. Also, we're going to discuss ghosts in the White House, as well as paranormal information in general. Now, examine the fear factor that most people would find it equally abhorrent to either be abducted from their bedrooms by aliens and to have various traumatizing experiments or molestations, if you will, perpetrated against them, or to be possessed by a demon, or discarnate, in either case, to be powerless to stop the intrusive activities. Now, it is observable, at least from having interviewed many participants on this issue, and having read many UFO literature, that many participants would rather admit to alien interference than to consider demonic possession. Now, the former offering some modicum, if you will, of contact, perhaps with a higher intelligence. Now, take John Mack, for example. John Mack, who'd passed away not too long ago, was a researcher at Harvard University. He was a psychiatrist as well, and he did a lot of regression therapy with people who had been abducted by aliens. And he came out with the conclusion here that those who had been abducted would have this feeling of uncleanliness to them, feeling morally corrupt. And that's due with contact. They felt violated. They felt that they had an evil force attacking them. And there are other researchers out there that have investigated very similar cases and have come to the same conclusions. So we're going to get right now into some of the similarities between UFO abductions and demonic possessions. Now, we can at least partially judge these entities by their effects on people. Those who were abducted report never being the same again, as if their alien abductors were always nearby, or in some cases, within them, much like an infection or a possession state. And that's a very common similarity with people who have been abducted, as well as people who have been possessed. They're basically bacteria, okay? That's what they are, no more, no less. They're another life form from a different purpose. So what right do bacteria have to join our bodies? Now, many modern researchers are now saying that abductees are finding their experiences more and more acceptable, even spiritually uplifting and transformational. Social worker John Carpenter, who is the director of abduction research for the MUFON network, he noted that more accepting attitude in contactees, abductees, were relevant. Dr. John Mack says many abductees come to love their alien captors. Author Whitley Strieber admits to his love and longing for the creatures which he had previously been abducted by, even though they did medical experiments on him, including nasal and anal probes, and that's a true fact, according to him. Now, in the case of spiritual and demonic possession, a large measure of the entity's success in the host depends on the host's cooperation. If you do not let them in, they basically have to force their way in. Fear, people, fear is something you cannot give to these entities. Now, if the host finds power, profit, or even love as a result of the visitors within, once they are recognized, then the host will naturally find the visitor's presence more and more acceptable, often even transformational in the broadest sense, to the point of developing a love for and or a dependency upon them, like a drug addiction. That's where the Stockholm Syndrome comes in, where people who have been abducted in terrorist-like captivity, they seem to be show sympathy towards in these cases. Now, often the ETs and spirit entities present themselves to participants in similar ways. There are many cases where participants are unable to separate the identities of these entities as being one or the other, whether it's an extraterrestrial being or a demon, and that suggests that the entities, at least some of them, may be one and the same. And many people who have been abducted by aliens or possessed by a demonic entity, they confuse the identities. They even claim that some of them could be angels. In addition, both sets of entities are or seem capable of many things, and here are the things that they're capable of. Okay? Telepathic communication. They can read your minds. They can put you in a hypnotic state, an altered state, induction, regression, or suggestion. They can give you commands. Hiding both in the sense of successfully convincing the host and participant to deny their existence, and that convincing a huge portion of the public that they don't exist. Also, both are capable of hiding in the physical sense as well, within the layered psyche. Actually, it's the psychical sense if you think about it, and often within the physical or quantum or within the body of the host. Reprisal when discovered, often in equal measure to the level of emotional distress caused by the discovery. They can time travel. Okay, they can also travel via dimensions, obtaining some measure of physical and mental control over their subjects for extended periods of time. We're talking months upon months here, people. Cajoling, manipulating, or in some way forcing their subjects to perform acts against the subject's will, including forced sexual intercourse, which is considered rape, violent crime, suicide. The solar temper cult, it could be an extreme example of this concept. Okay, leader Luc Jouret claimed contact with ETs and said the only way to go to their planet was through the glory of fire, which resulted in the fiery deaths and, in some cases, murder of all cult members in 1994 and more recently. They're able to physically move their subjects from one location to another through various means, including a compromise of the participants' free will through mind control and manipulation. It's a scary scenario here, people. Very scary and very real. They're able to interact with their hosts at a soul level. And that's kind of scary because not only can they take over your body, rather, they could also take over your soul. Establishing highly organized hierarchic networks capable of interacting with and controlling to some degree vast numbers of minions and human beings simultaneously. Now, according to Dr. Gregory Little, who is a psychologist and UFO researcher, he's also an author. He claims that these entities, at least the ones who do harm to human hosts, they enter or manifest into the human perceptual levels from the lower frequencies of the electromagnetic spectrum. And it's according to his book, Grand Illusions. And I think it's something the listeners need to check out. It's very informative, and it's a good read. interrupting the transitory journey of the soul after death. They can actually interrupt your path towards the light. And examples can be found in the Bible, in the book of the Matrix. Now, claiming to represent the light, that's what they claim, a higher spiritual power, even though the literal translation of the name Lucifer is the light bearer. And that's where New Ageism comes in here, people. Those who follow the light or the light bearer actually worship the devil. Many don't realize that they're doing it. They think it's a higher sense of themselves. They see that it's a part of the ascension process, but when you ascend, you must die. You have to leave your physical bodies to ascend. These people don't realize that they're not following the positive energies, but the negatives. Now, either set of entities, whether it's a demon or an alien, extraterrestrial, they can or could have been abducted or possessed themselves. Okay, now without going into great detail, it's convenient to think of the possibilities like this. Demons or fallen angels, whatever you want to call them, they're said to have fallen from grace, right? Even though they were originally created by God. In effect, they may have been influenced or even possessed or abducted by Lucifer at the same time of the great rebellion in heaven. ETs, generically meant here to basically encompass UFO related entities or aliens, are vulnerable to possession and abductions as well. Anything that has a soul can be abducted, anything that has a soul can be possessed. Both sets of subsets of these entities may have volunteered to interact with humans in these ways. Now, there's a doctor out there by the name of Dr. Baldwin. Don't have the first name here. Mentions the similarity of the little demons to stinging insects. Many UFO participants report interactions with UFO occupants resembling insects. You can see that portrayed in many television shows. Worldwide, many government, military, and, here guys, industrial leaders, in addition to the general public population, can act in many ways identical to these entities because of the relatively high level of possession or influence the leaders have been subjected to by these entities. They're able to perform their task in a highly compartmental fashion, much like our intelligence agencies, and are subjected to a need to know protocol that protects the higher echelons and the knowledge base of their organizations from close scrutiny. They're able to control robot-like minions capable of performing physical tasks. Possessed extraterrestrials have reported through participants, and these are channelers, and I'm not a big follower of channelers. I think 90% of them are frauds. But they claim that they have performed similar abduction tasks on other planets. They're able to emulate voices in the host's minds, the participants' minds. Many credible researchers see a direct connection between the so-called UFO phenomenon and black magic. And that's a legitimate fact as well. Now, convincing hosts that they are specially chosen, if you will, and often promise rewards for cooperation and implementations of the entity's agenda seems to be a primary goal in order to allow them to have access to your soul, to your body. They try to hybridize corporal bodies of their own through genetic and soul level manipulation of human donors. That's also been portrayed on movies, television, and books as well. They're able to induce a dream state where coded or occult, like I'll give you an example here, or hidden information is often implanted in the mind of the person for later retrieval or implementation of a designated action. For instance, here's something that's quite scary. Many people that have been abducted by aliens, particularly the women, claim that they've had eggs taken out, inseminated with sperm, implanted back into their bodies, carry the fetus for up to 4 months, only to be abducted again and have the fetus removed. And that's been reported throughout many novels, throughout many books, throughout many stories. They're able to attempt to dissuade a participant from using free will or to exercise that use towards ways that would benefit the entities. Both sets of entities also at times appear to outright disregard your free will. These things that the entities are capable of doing, so too, even in lesser degree, are their minions, their victims. They're able to display high degrees of familiarity with and command of exotic technology. They also seem capable of influencing humans to develop and utilize technologies considered to be exotic or unique. Now, these latter technologies often owe their genesis to areas having to do with human conflict or destruction. Here is another prime example: serial killers, for instance. Many people who we've seen in the news throughout history, people like Jim Jones, okay, Jeffrey Dahmer, um, Ronald DeFeo of the Amityville house, they've all claimed to have been somewhat coerced, if you will, manipulated by some sort of force or entity. Particularly Ronald DeFeo. He claimed to have been possessed by a demon, even maybe the devil himself. And we see this a lot with people who murder other people, particularly in the southern part of the United States a few years ago, where there was an African American woman, 29 years old. She murdered both her sons. Now, she loved her sons. She was on the Oprah Winfrey show recently. And what happened was she was very depressed and she wanted to die, so she took her two sons with her to a motel room. And all of a sudden, she just started to strangle them. And she said that she couldn't stop. Even though she wanted to, she couldn't. It wasn't because she physically couldn't stop. It was because there seemed to be a mental and emotional hold over her. And the way she was talking appeared to me that she was possessed by a demonic force. So it's quite interesting here, guys. There's a lot to do, a lot of similarities to do between alien abductions and demonic possession. I think you should all really do some research into this. It is a fascinating subject, and it can be quite scary. So let's get on to hear some more. Now, how do you know if that host rapping on your walls is bad plumbing or a mischievous spirit? Here are some signs of a haunting. We're going to get into haunting here, guys. Very, very, very interesting things. So we're going to switch gears, and then we'll get into some ghosts of the White House. Normally, you hear heavy footsteps in the upstairs hallway, the attic, if you will, too, as well. When you know no one is up there, you'll hear doors slam unaccountably. Commonly used items disappear, they reappear without cause. The kitchen light, for example, will turn on by itself. There's the unmistakable scent of a strange perfume in the air. And sometimes you'll know that odor, you'll smell it, and it'll remind you of somebody. There may be indications that your house is haunted. Okay, and here are some of the indications. True hauntings are rare occurrences, all right? And it may be difficult to determine whether or not any strange phenomenon you are experiencing in your home right now might be due to a haunting. For one thing, no one really knows what a real haunting is, what causes it, or why it starts. There's a lot of theories out there that earthbound souls are here because they have unfinished business, or that they are afraid to go into the light due to religious beliefs, that if they do go into the light, if they do cross over, that they may in fact be judged. So let's see what else we have from some very interesting stuff. There's tons of information on this that it's very easily accessed. Now there are many theories, like I said, and there's a nice article that was written. It's called "Ghosts, What Are They?" And I think you should really take a look at that. It'll tell you in great detail the different type of spirits that may be haunting your house. Now, the first step when you are dealing with a haunting is basically to determine as best as you can, okay, whether or not you truly have a legitimate case of a haunting. Not all hauntings are alike. They may exhibit a variety of phenomenon. Some hauntings feature a single phenomenon, such as a particular door slamming that occurs repeatedly, while others consist of many different phenomena, ranging from strange and odd noises to full-blown apparitions. And trust me, if you've ever seen a full-blown apparition, it's quite nerve-wracking. Now here's a partial list of phenomena that might indicate that your house is indeed haunted. Unexplained noises. These can include footsteps, knocks, banging, rapping, scratching sounds, sounds of something being dropped. Sometimes these noises can be subtle, and other times they can be quite loud. Doors, cabinets, cupboards opening and closing on their own, and these phenomena are not seen directly. You'll hear them, but you won't see them. You know, the person that experiences this either hears the distinct sounds of the doors opening and closing, or they don't. You'll see furniture moving at times. You'll hear it most likely than not. You'll see things disappearing. Like you'll put something on your table, for instance. You'll put your set of keys. Next thing you know, they're gone. You'll find them in your sofa, but you know where you put them. Now, there's a term used for items that disappear and reappear. It's called the DOP, or the disappearing object phenomenon, and it's been examined by many paranormal researchers, mediums, and the like. Unexplained shadows, and I've seen those as well myself, living in a former mortuary that had been converted to a house. The sighting of fleeting shapes and shadows, usually seen out of the corner of the eye. This phenomenon has also been discussed in a lot of detail in a very interesting article called Shadow People. You could just Google it, Google Shadow People, and a lot of that information will come up for you. Now, many times the shadows have vaguely human forms, while other times they are less distinguishable or smaller, or they may come in a mist. How about animal behavior? This is a very telling clue that you might be experiencing a haunting in your house. A dog, cat, or other pet, they behave strangely. Now, dogs, they may bark at something unseen. They may cower without apparent reason or refuse to enter a room that they normally go into. Cats may seem to be watching something across the room. Now, animals have sharper senses than human beings, and many researchers think that their psychic abilities might be more finely tuned as well. Feelings of being watched. I would think this is the most common of all hauntings. And it could be attributed to many things, but it could have a paranormal source if the feeling consistently occurs in a particular part of the house at a particular time, and it's usually at night when you are alone. Those are some of the most common experiences of those who think their houses are haunted. Yet even stranger things can happen, and here's some stronger evidence for you guys. Now, the following phenomenon are more rare, but could be stronger evidence that you're dealing with a haunting here. Mild psychokinetic phenomenon. Hearing a door open or close is one thing. Actually seeing it happen is quite another. Similarly, actually seeing a light go on or off by itself is greater proof that something unexplained is happening. Do you see the TV or audio turn on? That's a question to ask yourself. Or perhaps you're present when a child's power toy begins to operate on its own. Doors and windows are locked or unlocked. Some people report that they are in bed, that they can feel or hear something sitting on the bed next to them. Feelings of being touched. I've been touched. I know the feeling. All the hair on your arms will stand up. The feeling of being watched is one thing, and actually feeling like you are being touched is quite another. Some people feel something brush past them, something touching their hair, or a hand on their shoulder. Some feel a gentle poke, a push, or a nudge. Cries and whispers. On occasion, muffled voices. Whispering and crying can be heard. Sometimes it's music from another unknown source. People hear their names being said. This phenomenon, as true for the one above, gains more credibility if more than one person hears or sees the same thing at the same time. Cold or hot spots. Cold spots are classic haunting symptoms. Okay, but any instance of a noticeable variance in temperature without a discernible cause could be classified as evidence. Unexplained odors or smells. The distinct fragrance of a perfume or a cologne that you do not have in your house. This phenomenon comes and goes without any apparent cause and may accompany other phenomena such as shadows, voices, psychokinetic phenomenon. Foul odors can happen in the same way, and if you come across a foul odor when you're dealing with a haunting, it's usually a sign of a demonic presence. Rarer still are more extreme phenomena, some of which have been called poltergeist phenomenon and can be quite strong evidence of a true haunting. Moving or levitating objects, severe psychokinetic phenomenon here, guys. Dinner plates sliding across the table, pictures flying off walls, doors slamming shut with great force, furniture sliding across the door. How about physical assaults? They do happen. Scratches, slaps, hard shoves. This kind of personal assault is extremely rare, but obviously highly disturbing. Other physical evidence includes unexplained writing on paper or walls, handprints and footprints, apparitions, physical manifestations of a spirit or entity. These phenomena are also very rare. They can take many forms. Human-shaped mist or forming mist of some indistinguishable shape. Transparent human forms that disappear quickly, and most rarely, human forms that look as real and solid as a living person. You would even think it was a living person, but that disappears into a room or even without being viewed. Now, if you suspect that your house is haunted, here's what you can do to find out and take some action. Before we get into this, I'd just like to thank Michael Vera, Peter Kling at LNM Radio, Late Night in the Midlands, for giving me and Justin Cook the opportunity to do our show here, to give us a venue. And we're proud of this. We're proud to be working alongside of a truly wonderful radio network. And I'm going to do my shout outs now before I forget, which I tend to do. I want to thank Pam Suggs of UnitedTruthSeekers.com, who's helping me a lot with the technical issues. So thank you very much, Pam, for everything that you're doing. I'd like to give a big shout out to a former neighbor of mine and a friend, Jessica Lynn Lee, who is down there in Castleman, Ontario, Canada. And I hope all is well with you, Jessica. I'd also like to give a shout out to paranormallab.uk, which is a Facebook group, and it's owned by David Sermon. Also, The Supernatural World, which is a Facebook group, and it's owned by Simon Chalk. Very well-rounded individuals who take this to heart, who really enjoy doing research when it comes to the paranormal. And of course, my co-host Justin Cook, who can't be with us this week, but will be with us next week. So here are some things you can do to find out if your house is haunted and take action. Now, if there are weird, unexplained things going out in your house, unexplained sounds, for instance, or apparitions or sights of anything, movements, or other signs of a haunting, here's some of the steps that you should take. Rule out rational explanations. Okay, a person who has experienced some of these phenomenon might have cause to believe that his or her house is haunted, but maybe not. In fact, according to most experts, it's probably not haunted. The human mind, our senses, as any magician will tell you, are easily fooled, okay? And people can often mistake explainable, if unusual, occurrences in their homes for the paranormal. So I just want to get that out there to the listeners and to people that are having issues with hauntings and ghosts. Now, before you decide there's a ghost in your house or move out due to fear, okay, do your best to find a rational explanation for what you are experiencing. Virtually all of the phenomenon listed in the signs that I gave you that your house is haunted could have perfectly natural causes. Now, noises could be houses settling, plumbing, or even vermin such as mice and squirrels. Opening and closing doors could be faulty hinges or caused by drafts. So make sure that your hinges are well screwed in, well oiled, and that the hinges themselves are not opened by the draft. So you're going to want to test it. Okay, disappearing objects. It could just be carelessness and forgetfulness. So you might want to take, a video camera. If you see this happen often, take a video camera and video record yourself putting the object down. Okay, shadows could just be shadows, basically. Okay, it could be a passing car shining on something, or it could be a person walking down the street. So you're going to want to have to try to debunk everything using scientific methods in order to disprove that your house is haunted. Now, as real as some of these things might seem to you, they could just be products of our imaginations. Of course, the more extreme the phenomenon, the harder they are to dismiss, right? And if multiple witnesses experience the same phenomenon, then they're likely to be taken more seriously. So, first of all, get help in finding rational explanations for the phenomenon. A plumber might help you find the cause of that banging. A carpenter can fix that door from closing on its own. A friend or a neighbor might be able to look at your particular experience in a different way and offer a reasonable explanation for your haunting that you might not have thought of. In short, make every possible effort to prove that your house is not haunted. Go in with a skeptical mind. Go in as a debunker, okay? Because that's the way you're going to prove that your house is haunted. Keep a journal. Now, if you feel you have ruled out rational explanations for the phenomenon that is taking place in your house, and they are still occurring on a more or less regular basis, document them. Keep a journal of the phenomenon as they happen. And here's an example. Put the date like July 5th, 2013, 10:30 p.m. You were sitting watching a TV show when the bathroom light switched on by itself. You went in, you turned it off again. Okay? So you go a few days later. All right? You were in the kitchen. Heard footsteps crossing the upstairs hallway again. No one was up there. Went up to investigate and could find no cause. A journal such as this could help with any form of investigation of the phenomenon by experts. If you hear unexplained noises, attempt to record them with a portable tape recorder. If there are physical phenomenon of any kind, whether it's a photograph or not, videotape them. Keep your journal, recording, and camera equipment readily available so you can document the phenomenon as it happens. All right? Call the experts. We seem to have an echo, Pam, coming through. I don't know if it's coming on your end through your speakers on your computer, just to let you know, but I'm going to continue here. Um, when should you call a paranormal investigator, by the way? Only when you have ruled out any rational explanations for the phenomenon you are experiencing and are thoroughly convinced that your house is truly haunted should you contact the experts. Of course, if the phenomenon are extreme and you feel that you and your family are in any kind of physical or psychological danger, you should call help right away. Now I'm going to check my speakers actually and see if my speakers are down because my speakers should be down. And maybe we can mute it. And there we go. And we'll see how that goes. Now, there are hundreds of paranormal investigative groups out there, okay? And they're across the United States, Canada, the UK, all over Europe. And you can find a state by state listing. Many of them on websites. Shadowlands, for instance, has them. Now, I'm not going to personally vouch for the expertise of any of these paranormal groups. You're going to have to trust them, and you're just going to have to make sure that they do a scientific investigation, that they go in there trying to debunk what's going on, because that's the way you're only going to prove it if they try to disprove it. Now, despite whatever strangeness you're experiencing, your house probably may not be haunted, okay? But if it is, perhaps it's a benign spirit or a phenomenon that you can live with. Usually it's something you need not to fear. Don't be afraid, okay? That's the number one rule here, guys. The number one thing you must keep in mind, because fear is a powerful tool and they feed off of it, okay? Especially the negative spirits. Don't be afraid. Don't panic. It's only an entity from another place or existence, okay? They were people too. So here's what you do if you see a ghost. Chances are, because you are visiting certain houses or you're having it in your house, you might want to go on some ghost hunts or some ghost tours in order to see if this feeling that you're feeling in your house, these experiences, are something that you're going to experience on your tour. Now, here's something interesting, okay? It's 8 things that you should do if you see a ghost. If your house is haunted in particular here, okay? Don't freak out. As much as many of us think we know how we'd react if we saw a genuine apparition, we don't really know until it happens to us. I didn't know. You know, I thought like, yeah, okay, if I see a ghost, I'm not going to be afraid. Well, I was afraid. Even though it never really bothered me, it never physically harmed me, I was still terrified. It's a natural instinct. Now, perhaps you would like to think to be brave, but you might just freak out, and that's not unusual. It's our instinctive fight, okay? So it's flight or fight, basically. It's a response in the face of the unknown kicking in. I mean, even experienced ghost hunters have run out of a room screaming. Now, whether you're on a ghost hunt, for example, and you're seeking spirits, or you spontaneously encounter an apparition, fight the urge to panic and flee. Okay, it might be in a once in a lifetime experience, and not many people have that privilege, so try to enjoy it. Although your heart might be pounding and your mind racing, try to remain calm and still. Ghosts, for the most part, are completely harmless. Okay, it's the demons you got to be careful of. Try to communicate with them. I wouldn't suggest using an Ouija board because that seems to open doorways to other dimensions where demonic spirits or negative entities can come in. Okay, you can do this by using other type of equipment. Digital voice recorder is another way. A pendulum, that helps a lot, and you will get definite answers. But I advise you not to use an Ouija board. Okay, uh, if you're dealing with a residual haunting here, it's a recording on the environment. It's an imprint, if you will. Okay, you probably would not be able to communicate with it. The ghost won't even notice you because it's just trapped in this loop. All right, that would be like trying to communicate with a video recording, and no interaction is possible. If it's an intelligent haunting, okay, a true spirit of a once living person, you might get a reaction. The spirit might look at you, possibly as intrigued by you as you are of him or her. Because I'm sure You know that they are begging to be noticed, to be heard. Calmly talk to the spirit, just as if you are talking to a person you just met. Introduce yourself, ask the name. Be calm, be respectable. I know a lot of ghost hunters out there like to go and provoke spirits. I'm not a fan of that, okay? The best way to be is calm and respectful. There is no guarantee that you'll get a response, whether it's audible or otherwise, but it's worth a try. Take pictures. If you have a camera in hand, by all means, try to discreetly photograph the spirit. Even if it's just your cell phone camera, get some shots. But use the best camera you have available. Don't use the flash. The flash might wash out the figure of the spirit or cause unwanted reflections and glare. Without the flash, this will mean that you will have to hold the camera as perfectly still as you can as you snap the picture, especially in low light situations to avoid blurring. Yes, your hands might be shaking, but do your best. Take as many shots as you can while the apparition is visible. Also take some shots after the ghost has disappeared just to compare it. Now, if you have a video recorder, like I stated earlier, or a camcorder, or as a function that's on your cell phone, that's even better. Getting movement and sound would be a great evidence. Record audio. Uh, there's so many EVPs out there that I'm sure many of you guys who are listening to the show tonight have listened to them. So try to get the voices. It's probably the best evidence that you can get. Now you want to document your attempted communication with the spirit. You want to try to get an EVP from it. You might not hear anything at the time of the recording, but when you play it back, there's a good chance that you will. Call other people in. Here's another thing you can do. Okay, if you're alone, um, but there are others nearby, whether it's in another room, call them in. This will help confirm what you are experiencing. The more witnesses to the event, the better. But be calm. Don't shout. Prepare them for what they will hopefully see. You don't want them freaking out and getting all hysterical, okay? Keep them all calm and respectful. You want this to be a special thing, even reverent experiences for all involved. Having more people as personal witnesses will also mean that they can additionally document the experience with their cameras and recorders. The more documentation, the better. Wait it out. Simply see what happens. The spirit might be visible for just a few seconds, but if you're lucky, it could be a minute or more. Do not leave while the apparition is still visible, not even to fetch something else. Just watch it. Take note of what it does and how it reacts. Even if it disappears, wait around for a little while. It could return. Document it. I can't stress enough the importance of documenting this remarkable experience, okay? Even if you have taken pictures, captured video, recorded audio, you should also make a written account. It will be important and interesting to see how your personal experiences differs from the recording evidence or the recorded evidence and from other witnesses. Here's some things that your written notes should be included. Okay, I'm going to throw this in there while we're on this subject here. Make sure the time and date when it happened. Environmental factors like what was the weather, even if you were inside the house. The duration of the event, what the apparition looked like. Again, being as specific as possible without embellishment. Okay, don't embellish. Stay true to the fact. Try to determine whether it was a male or a female. Estimate the age, the height, posture, whether it was standing or sitting, the race, the color of hair, other personal attributes, if they're discernible, type of color of clothes, facial expressions, full-bodied or partial apparition. Other elements such as did they have an umbrella? Did they have a pipe, a top hat? The movements of the spirit, was it stationary or did it move around? Where did it go? Did it simply vanish or did it move out of the room? Did it appear or walk or simply just float away? Try to make sure if it tried to communicate with you, what did it say? Or what were the impressions or feelings you got from it? Because they will project their feelings, their emotions on you. Be as detailed as you can within your descriptions, okay? Be completely honest. Encourage any other witness to do the same so that you can compare notes. Okay? Return. It has been noted that ghost phenomenon, whether they are residual or even intelligent hauntings, tend to reoccur. So return to the spot where you encountered the ghost. Try to make it at the same time of the day and under the same circumstances. Perhaps you'll get lucky a second time. This time, though, you could be more prepared with your cameras and other equipment. There is no guarantee, of course, that the spirit will reappear. These phenomena seem to happen where and when they want. But now at least you'll know what to do if you see a ghost. Now, we're going to get into some of the most haunted places on Earth, and today I want to take a little bit of a focus here and talk about the White House. The White House is probably one of the most haunted places on planet Earth. Many presidents who lived there throughout the past, the present, have experienced paranormal phenomenon. And why not? You know, I mean, these people dealt with the occult. There was so much occultism being played out in that residence that it's impossible for it not to be haunted. So I'm just going to pause this for 1 second there, and we'll talk about ghosts in the White House. Now, it's home, as we know, to former several presidents who occasionally decide to make their presence known there, despite the fact that they're dead. George Washington, his connections to the paranormal was a prophetic vision he had for the future of America. Abraham Lincoln, the paranormal has even surrounded the highest office in the United States, the presidency, including Lincoln, who saw visions of his own death. That's in many novels, that's in many movies. His ghost can be seen in the White House. Dwight D. Eisenhower. There are many reports of paranormal activity that have been made about the Eisenhower farmhouse in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Apparitions have been seen. Ronald and Nancy Reagan. Okay? President Reagan's connection to the paranormal was First Lady Nancy Reagan's use of psychics and astrologers. That's a known fact. She would always have these parties on weekends where she would invite mediums, psychics. She would have people that delved into the occult, and they would throw parties. They would play with Ouija boards. They would open doorways to other dimensions, and spirits would come in. I don't recommend it, but that's what they did. Bill and Hillary Clinton. Now, President Bill Clinton's connection to the paranormal is First Lady Hillary's mystical sessions with New Age guru. Okay? And she also dealt a lot with Ouija boards, pendulums, and even trying to summon spirits that were former presidents, first ladies, and staff of the White House. Everybody's favorite president, that's sarcastic here, by the way, George W. Bush. President Bush, he claimed that he saw ghosts coming out of the walls near the Lincoln bedroom in the White House. President Harrison is said to be heard rummaging around in the attic of the White House, looking for who knows what, maybe buried maps or buried treasure. President Andrew Jackson is thought to haunt the White House. And the ghost of First Lady Abigail Adams was seen floating through one of the White House hallways as if carrying something. Maybe she stole what President Andrew Jackson was looking for. Who knows? Now, the most frequent cited presidential ghost has been that of Abraham Lincoln. Eleanor Roosevelt once stated that she believed she felt the presence of Lincoln, watching her as she worked in the Lincoln bedroom. Now, also during the Roosevelt administration, a young clerk claimed to have actually seen the ghost of Lincoln sitting on a bed pulling off his boots. On another occasion, while spending a night at the White House, during the Roosevelt presidency, Queen Wilhelmina of the Netherlands was awakened by a knock on the bedroom door. Of course, she answered it, and she was confronted with the ghost of Abraham Lincoln staring at her from the hallway. How cool would that be? Calvin Coolidge's wife reported seeing on several occasions the ghost of Lincoln standing with his hands clasped behind his back at a window in the Oval Office, staring out in deep contemplation toward the bloody battlefields across the Potomac. And these are some of the very scary and real ghosts of the White House. Now, I'm going to give you guys a little story of mine here, which is a true thing that occurred. It's something I experienced when living in this converted funeral parlor, which I didn't know at the time was a funeral parlor, by the way. I no idea. No one told me when I rented a place. It did kind of look kind of strange. There was a lot of, I guess, old furnishings there. And what happened was, I move into the house. I don't notice anything at first, except a very creepy basement. Okay, very creepy basement. And what happened was, The first experience I had, I'm sitting at a computer and I'm watching TV while on a computer, and I just see this shadow. The wall was kind of a yellowish, an off yellow. I saw a shadow going by. I paid no attention to it because I figured it was something from outside. But it kept happening. It kept happening. So once, I got really curious and I was like, okay, there's something going on here. Maybe it's a reflection from outside. So I closed the door, shut the windows, draw the curtains, and sure enough, it keeps happening. Same time, all the time. Once my girlfriend came over when we first started dating, and she wakes up to use the bathroom, and as she's walking towards a large playroom area of the basement, my nephew had left his Pirates of the Caribbean toy ship there, and it just levitated and kind of launched itself towards her. It did not hit her, but it did land on the floor directly in front of her feet, which spooked her, literally spooked her out of her shoes. Okay, I picked it up, I put it back, and it was cold to the touch. I've snapped many photographs using a very old and crappy webcam, and I was still able to capture some footage. I caught three spirits. It was an elderly man that kind of looked like Colonel Sanders at KFC. No joke. There was a woman about, I would say, 40, wearing a probably late 1800s dress with black hair and a skeletal face, and there was a child. I couldn't tell if it was a male or female, but I'd say it was about in between 5 and 7 years old. And it was odd because the first picture I got that I analyzed, they were actually posing for the webcam. And then throughout the series of pictures, which were about 100 of them, they're in various places of the basement. And I have them somewhere in my files, so I'm going to dig them up and post them on my Chris Freedom Flowers and Christopher F. Freedom Facebook accounts, and my very large group Ghosts and the Paranormal on Facebook as well. And they're quite interesting. Also, my cats. My cats are quite docile animals. They're not the type to fight with each other or be negative in any sense, but they were negative at that place for the 8 months that we lived there. They would fight often. They would growl and hiss, and their fur would stand up, and they would just attack things that were not there, that were unseen to me or anyone else. And I would have people come over who knew my cats, family members and friends, and they would be like, "Yeah, there's something here. I've never seen them act that way before." Um, Also, the strange thing is that there were a lot of flies that would come in. They would just appear. I don't know how they would get in because the windows would be closed, but they would be there. So there was some sort of, I would say, negative force there. I don't necessarily believe that the three spirits that I took photos of were negative, but I think there was another spirit there. I remember this one time I was laying on the bed. I had long hair at the time in a ponytail, and I felt my hair being caressed. I felt the tug on my ponytail, and I figured it was one of my cats in the room, wanting to play, wanted attention. So I get up, I turn on the light, no cat around. So I'm like, okay, I open up the door, close the door, and in front of me I see six cats sitting, just looking at me. I'm like, okay, this is kind of strange. Like, there's got to be something in the room. So I'm looking everywhere, trying to find if it's something else in the room. There was nothing. I combed that room for about a good hour and a half. So I got, I became more calmer, and I turned the light off, went back to sleep. And just before I was about to fall asleep, when I'm in that state between sleep and being awake, I feel again the same thing. Only this time, I also felt something sit on the bed next to me. I laid there for about an hour, terrified. Terrified. My room became icy cold. I couldn't move. And this happened a few times after that. There was another time, and this was very scary. This really, really, really freaked me out. Again, my girlfriend is over, and we're in bed sleeping, and I hear noise. So I wake up, and it's pitch black almost. Okay, there's only one light throughout the basement, and it's coming from the stairs that lead up to the second floor, or the main floor actually. And it was very dim, so you couldn't really see too well. And I didn't have my contact lens in, so I couldn't see all that well. So I get up, and I decide to use the bathroom, get a drink of water, and I see a shadowy figure, but that was kind of like a full-bodied, solid individual standing at the stairs that resembled my girlfriend. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, what are you doing up? No answer. So I asked again, you okay? Everything all right? No answer again. So I just shrugged it off, and I went, got my water. I came back. This the form was still there. So I didn't pay no attention to it. I'm like, okay, whatever, uh, he's probably upset or something. So I went into the bedroom and I look and I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I turn on the light. My girlfriend is sleeping in the bed. This freaked me out. Okay, so I run back to the stairs. The object is gone. The spirit is gone. So then I knew there was something in my house. And it was full bodied, but it was like a black mass. But because I didn't have my contact lens in, I couldn't really see it. I've also captured a very strange electronic voice phenomenon where I'd had an audio that stated "get out," and it was in a French accent, and I'm from Montreal, Quebec, so that was quite scary to say the least. I had another one where we were able to capture music that seemed to come from the 1920s or 1930s. Also, some type of carnival music. We also captured scratch noises, banging, and also was a sentence that was in another language, which I think may have been German, but I couldn't make it out. So there was no point in further analyzing that evidence. So just to let you know, guys, try not to fear spirits or ghosts. Most of them, they just want attention. They want to be noticed. Just imagine being dead and you're around the people that you love, but they can't hear you and they can't see you, but you desperately want to make contact with them. Try to put yourself in their shoes. They're going to do things to try to make contact with you, and some of it is going to appear to be scary, frightening, but most of the time it's not. They may toss things at you, they may bang, they may, turn off your lights, but it's just to get your attention. It's just so you'll notice them for validation purposes. So when that happens, try to communicate with them. Sometimes you'll come across an odor, an aroma of somebody that passed on that will remind you of the person. And if it does, call out the name. Try to talk to them. Have a digital voice recorder with you so you can try to get replies from them. And again, like I stated earlier on, you might not hear it with your ear. Play back the digital voice recorder, and you might have something on it. But there are so many places around the world that are haunted. All over the globe. I think England is probably one of the most haunted places on Earth, and I plan on doing a future show about the Tower of London, the Windsor Palace, and a lot of other very well-known places. But just keep an eye on it because you never know what you're going to come across. Also, cemeteries. That's a very frightening place to be, especially at night. But there's a lot of activity there, and if you want to go out and you want to do some ghost hunting or some ghost investigation, as I like to call it, just make sure you don't go alone. Okay, not for fear of the spirits, but you don't know who's lurking around in there. Okay, there are people in there that just like to play games on people, and you don't know if they could be negative people. So just be very, very careful when you're doing these things. Never go on a ghost investigation by yourself. Always team up, no matter where it is. Whether it's a house, cemetery, always have a backup person with you. Try to go in teams of two, or even three would be better. So you can have somebody, watching both of you, and you could just like watch each other. A little note for next week's show, guys. We're going to do something quite interesting here. Something that I am fascinated by. It's a topic, an issue that I've researched for the past 20 years. Bigfoot. So I hope you all listen in to that show. I'm going to try to get a guest on that I have as a Facebook friend that has actually been doing a documentary based on the legend of Bigfoot. So I'm going to try to have her on. If not, we'll discuss the subject in total. We'll also try to tie it into possibly an extraterrestrial connection, as well as maybe a genetically altered being, if you will. And if you're not familiar with Plum Island, I think you should go out there and maybe research it. And Montauk, Montauk, they do a lot of experimentation with animals. They try to breed certain species together and create creatures. So we're going to get into a little bit of that as well. So that'll be next week's show, which will be, I believe, the 22nd of November. So listen into that. We're almost out of time here, guys, for our show, but I'd like to thank you, the listeners, for listening in. It's only our second show here on LNM Radio, Late Night in the Midlands Radio, and we're doing our best to try to get better each time we're on. We have had technical issues with our first show if you listen to it, but I'm sure this one is much better than the other one, and we're going to continue to work on it. And once again, much thanks and much love to Michael Vera, Peter Kling, and everybody over there at LNM Radio for giving us a venue to speak about the things that we love, to do the type of show that we love. And I've done shows all over many networks. I've done shows mostly when it comes to the Illuminati New World Order agenda, occultism, and I'm going to eventually do some shows on my show about that because the title of the show is Awaken United: Mysteries and Beyond. And we're going to cover every mystery that we can. We're going to delve into the New World Order on future shows. We're going to delve into UFO related issues. We're going to delve into many topics. So stay tuned for that, guys. So have a great day. Stay safe and stay spooky. Cue the outro.